Well, let's get some more now on our top story. The Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt's assertion that there's a collective national shame about the way the emotional needs of elderly people are ignored. We're hoping that Mr Hunt will join us in just a minute. As you can see, he's still taking questions there at the scene of his speech. But in Leicester, we have the Shadow Minister for Care and Older People, Liz Kendall. Liz Kendall, do you think it is helpful to say that there is a national shame about this matter?
Well, I think that Britain's 6 million unpaid family carers will think it's a bit rich that the Health Secretary is saying to them that they should be doing more. I mean, many face a desperate daily struggle to look after the people that they love, and what they need is help and support from the government rather than criticism from the Secretary of State. There is a real issue of loneliness and isolation amongst older people, but families have got to juggle working with bringing up their kids, and what they need is a government that takes responsibility for its side of the bargain of caring for our ageing population.
Well, what Mr Hunt did say this morning was, first of all, that it wasn't credible to consider that the budget in this area could be restrained, that as more people got old, there would need to be a bigger increase in budget. He also paid tribute to family carers and to professional carers. So he's in fact done much of what you would like, hasn't he?
Well, I think there's far more that we could be doing to help and support family carers. Many people struggle to get the information and advice they need. They feel they have to battle different parts of the system. And what Labour is proposing is a much bigger and bolder response, which is to fully join up the NHS and social care system so people can have one service, one team and one point of contact to help meet all of their mum or dad's needs. And I think this is a really important issue for the country. It's not something that's going to happen to somebody else. It's going to happen to my mum and dad and me and you, Adam. And we do need to take it seriously as a country, but the government has got to meet its side of the bargain too. And I think that Jeremy Hunt has wasted 3 years on a backroom NHS reorganisation when he should have been focusing on these issues right from the start.
OK, stay with us.
Well, here joining us in the studio are Jill Shaw Ruddock, who runs the Second Half Centre, offering older people everything from computer classes to singing. She also compiled a report earlier this year into how much loneliness costs the NHS. And Erma Simon, who retired 4 years ago, is also a member of the centre. Jill, it's a very negative picture that Jeremy Hunt's painting. Do you think it's an accurate one?
I do think it's an accurate one. I think that you just have to look at the statistics and say, you know, the population of people over 80 is going to treble in the next 2 decades. I don't think that his approach is necessarily the one that I'm most comfortable with, because I think he's looking for a complete change in society's attitudes towards their older people, which I think is unrealistic and will take multi-generations to enact. So that's the problem I have with today.
Erma, where do you think the responsibility lies for loneliness in the older generation? Is it with the person themselves, or is it with their family, or with the community, or with the government?
I think it's both with the person and the family. I mean, the government have a part to play, but I think it's down to the relatives and the younger generations.
But how practical is it, do you think, what Jeremy Hunt is suggesting, that families should take more care of their older relatives? Do you, for example, have younger relatives nearby who have the time to help you and the space, perhaps, for you to live with them?
But I mean, I think that the family should do a bit more. In some cases, I think they could do a bit more than what they do. You know,
I mean, there is an issue, isn't there, Liz Kendall, as to how much should be heaped onto the government. I mean, it's possible to criticise the government response, whoever happens to be in power, but do you agree with the basic principle that perhaps people ought to do more themselves within their own families?
Well, as I said, there's already 6 million unpaid family carers, and over 1 million of those care for someone for more than 50 hours a week. They often see their own health suffer as a result.
Many
families are already caring, and many others would like to, but they've got to hold down a job, they've got to bring up their own kids, and if you don't live nearby, it's very hard. You know, many families face, you know, rushing up and down the country trying to put things in place. And I think Jeremy Hunt doesn't seem to really understand the reality of the pressures that families are under. They want to look after the person that they love, but they need help and support. And I don't think an approach which tries to blame families or say it's only they that should be doing more. The government should be doing more too. It needs to be a partnership, because we are all going to have to care for longer as we all live for longer.
But is it acceptable to say, well, I've got a job, I've got my own family, therefore it's up to the state to look after my parents?
But that's not what I've said, Adam, and families don't say that either. They've got to work to bring in incomes, they've got to look after their children, and they want to do as much as they can to help their families, but they need a decent system of care. They need to work with local voluntary and other groups, and I think it's got to be a partnership, and giving out a message that, you know, families are to blame for not taking on more responsibility. I know that many carers in my constituency here in Leicester will think that they're really struggling and they need support, not criticism.
Jill Shaw Ruddock, you're keen to dive in there?
Well, yes, because I think that what we're trying to do at the Second Half Center is to give people and everybody involved who is over 60 years old an opportunity to look after themselves and create a preventative and proactive care model. The reality is there's no more money. There's not going to be any more money, but there are going to be a lot more older people. And we have to figure out a way as a society to give people a chance to look after themselves. And that's what we're doing at the Second Half Center. That's what we're trying to do with the foundation, to spread this proactive care model where people can create these hubs to come together, learn, and tackle isolation.
Erma, in some countries, China for example, grandchildren are obliged to visit their elderly relatives, and you know, they can be fined and imprisoned almost, but for not doing so. I mean, that's obviously taking it to one extreme, but do you think
drastic, you know, but it's a different environment. You do have that community knit spirit. So your parents done it, you grow up, you do, and it just continue like that. It's not a matter of it's forced onto you. It just come natural. You just do it because you're growing up, you're seeing it, and automatically you just continue.
If, as you say, there is no more money, and if, for whatever reason, families are not in a position or not prepared to do more, would you say that the government needs to spend more supporting structures such as your own?
Yes, the foundation published a report in June, which was as low as I could make it because I don't think it was very credible otherwise. And we said that monetizing the cost of isolation creates a net savings to the NHS of just one hub of 135%. Social Finance is doing a report as well, and their initial analysis is that it's over 200%. So the numbers are just staggering, and for people to pay attention to those kind of community hubs and tackling isolation, yes, I do think that it's an immediate solution that really would be very effective for governments to enact.
Jeremy Hunt's talked about it being a national shame. Do you think it's something that is peculiar to the UK? We compared it to some Asian countries, and I'm just wondering if you think in perhaps other countries the elderly would be treated with more courtesy and more included.
The families, it's all down to the family. They do take more care of the elderly.
They need to.
They do take more care. And I mean, not to say they have the system, as say, with the welfare to help them out. They just do it.
Okay,
you don't depend on the government.
Thank you both very much here in Westminster, and also to Liz Kendall. And we are hoping that Jeremy Hunt will be able to join us during this programme.